The big story that we're tracking at the moment is the election date or the date of polling that has been announced for Himachal Pradesh. The election will take place on the 12th of November and the counting on the 8th of December, almost a month later. The surprise factor here was that the date of election for Gujarat was not announced, and the election commissioner, chief election commissioner, was asked several questions on that. First, let's listen in to the announcement of the Himachal Pradesh election dates.
The Gazette notification would be 17th October. The election would be in one phase. Last date for nomination would be 25th October, that is Tuesday. Date for scrutiny would be 27th. Last date for withdrawal would be 29th. And date of poll 12th November. And date of counting 8th December. And the entire process is completed by 10th of December. Commission actually goes by the convention in announcing the schedule of elections. It has decided to go by the convention which was set up, which was last followed. In any case, the preparation and conduct of elections is a very detailed exercise, and it takes into account various factors, variable factors, consultation with all the stakeholders, and the factors which are competitive. As the friend asked, the impact of result of one election on the another, the gap between the two elections. So you may know that when the elections were announced together in the round in 5 states, West Bengal, Pondicherry, Tamil Nadu, Kerala and Assam, there was a gap of 10 to 15 days. In these elections, there is a gap of 40 days in the qualifying date. There are factors like the weather. In case of Himachal Pradesh, the weather is a very important factor, especially in the upper reaches, in the constituencies where snowing takes place. So, having seen everything together, including the MCC period which extends, including the preponing in certain states when there is a gap of more than, closer to 2 months, less than 2 months, there are multiple factors. And after examining everything, Commission weighed everything and decided to go by the convention which was last held.
All right, now Arvind is joining us with more details. Now, Arvind, the question that was asked several times over to the Chief Election Commissioner was with regards to dates for Gujarat elections and also the gap between the polling and the counting of the Himachal elections. Why such a long gap? Were there any answers for that as well?
Yeah, Maha, in fact, two very important points from this entire process, though the Election Commission is trying to justify why they have separated the elections of both Gujarat and Himachal, though they are saying that the gap of tenure of both these assemblies, the tenure of Himachal is ending in the first week of January 2023, and also the tenure of Gujarat is ending in February 2023. And according to the Election Commission, because there is a gap of almost 40 days, and that's why they didn't want to club the elections together, they wanted to separate the elections so that they could reduce the period of model code of conduct. That was the ground on which the Election Commission is justifying the segregation of polls of Gujarat and also Himachal. But this looks a very weak defense, because earlier this year, because the Election Commission conducted polls for almost 5 states, Uttarakhand, Uttar Pradesh, Goa, Punjab, etc. But if you could see the tenure of assemblies of Goa and also Uttar Pradesh, the Goa's tenure was to end on 14th March 2022 and Uttar Pradesh tenure was to end on 15th May 2022. That's almost a gap of 2 months. 60 days was the gap between Goa's tenure and Uttar Pradesh tenure. Yet the Election Commission clubbed the elections for both Goa and Uttar Pradesh, and then they went ahead, they conducted the elections together, they announced the elections together, and they conducted the elections together. If that was the case, if the period between Goa and Uttar Pradesh was almost 60 days, and if the Election Commission could club the election together and conduct it, this particular defense of saying that because there is a gap of 40 days, we didn't conduct the elections together seems to be a very weak defense. And again, the Election Commission, this seems to be the only defense the Election Commission is trying to make, also saying that because last time also the Election elections were not conducted together, and that's why going by the convention, we are not conducting the elections together. This seems to be the only defense that the Election Commission is putting forward, but it seems to be a weak defense. Coming to the second point, the gap between the polling and also counting. If you could see the polling is on 12th November 2022 and the counting is on 8th December. There is almost a gap of 1 month between polling and counting. So what it means, in all probability, the Election Commission will be coming up with the schedule for Gujarat Assembly elections in the coming days, and they might try to fit in with this particular schedule of counting, because the counting for Himachal has been put out as 8th December. So the Election Commission might try to conduct the election between this period of 1 month in Gujarat and then try to club the counting between Himachal and Gujarat together on 8th December. That seems to be the only logic for keeping a month gap between polling and counting, because it's a single phase polling in Himachal. There need not be a 40 days period. Even if they want a reserve days for 2 or 3 more days, they could have fit the counting, they could have scheduled the counting in the last week of November itself, but they have scheduled the counting on first week of December. That's almost 8th December, almost a month gap between counting and polling. So polling and counting. So it seems so, though the Election Commission is not spelling out the real reason, but it seems so. Election Commission is trying to fit in the polling of Gujarat between this 1 month period and then try to club the counting both Gujarat and Himachal in the first week of December. That's on 8th December.
Also, Arvind, since there was a mention of MCC or the Model Code of Conduct by the Chief Election Commissioner there, can you help us understand during the MCC then no fresh announcements of any initiatives by the governments can be made, right, for the particular state?
Yeah, Maha, in Himachal, because the MCC has come into force very this moment, and there cannot be any new projects or schemes that can be announced in the state of Himachal. So Himachal Model Code of Conduct is in effect from this moment. In fact, Election Commission also came up with this bizarre logic, kind of a justification, saying that they also wanted to reduce the Model Code of Conduct period. If they wanted to conduct both the Gujarat and Himachal elections together, then the Model Code of Conduct period would get extended to almost 70 days. And that's why they wanted to reduce the Model Code of Conduct period, and that's why they conducted the elections in Himachal separately in order to reduce the Model Code of Conduct period to 57 days. If reducing the Model Code of Conduct period seems to be the logic behind segregating the election, then why there is a gap between polling and counting for almost 1 month? If they could have done the counting, they could have scheduled the counting in the last week of November, the Model Code of Conduct period would have come by less, it would have been reduced by 10 more days. What is the logic between counting in the first week or second week of November and the polling in the second week of November and counting in the first week of December? That seems to be a bizarre logic, but the only logic that comes to our mind is that Election Commission is trying to fit in the Gujarat election between this period, and they didn't want to announce the Gujarat election today. They wanted to announce the Gujarat election sometime later, and that's why this seems to be the only reason for keeping a month gap between polling and counting. And again, with them making a defense that they wanted to reduce the Model Code of Conduct period, that seems not clear when it comes to this 1 month gap between polling and counting.